Hello, hello, hello! Greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, hello there, hello there. Hello there, Julian 20. Congratulations on getting first. Hello there, Private Maverick. Welcome, Blarg. Julian 20, indeed. Heidi ho, hello there, Julian 20. Heidi ho to you as well. Hello, hello, oh, hello there, one true well, welcome. Hello, all you marvelous, wonderful scholars, back to the study. How are you all doing, my dear scholars? I hope you're doing well. My goodness gracious. Julian 20. Okay, well, okay is good. Okay is good. Today was okay for myself. I can't complain. Horace and I just did the usual work and talk and things of that matter. Oh my goodness gracious. But I'm glad to hear you're okay. Are you okay, one Truel? Oh, don't have tears in your eyes. Don't be sad. I mean, we're all together. We're all together on this stream. We're all here. Oh, you and Tony. Let's see. Aw, that's wonderful, one Truel. Oh my goodness gracious! But it's good to be back, and it's yeah. What am I even saying? And one Truel, where's the beef? I don't know where the beef is. The kitchen ran away again, so we don't have any access to food again. We're hoping it might pop up within a day or two. We hope. Julian 20, now I'm hungry. Oh my goodness gracious. But I'm afraid I don't have any snacks, Julian 20. I don't have any snacks here in the study right now, unfortunately. Julian 20, but it is state fair time. Oh, state fair. Wherever you are, I'm not sure exactly what a state fair is. But I hope it's fun, whatever it is. I've never, I mean, I've heard of fairs before. Not really sure on state fairs. Julian 20, next week you get to go to X. So, oh, twice. Oh, well, I hope you have fun wherever you go. Private Maverick, if the kitchen is running, you better go catch it. I'll give you a pass, Private Maverick, on that. Oh, and congratulations on the 5 stream streak. Oh, my goodness gracious, my dear scholars. So silly, so silly. But I digress. Tonight, my dear scholars, we'll be reading more of Dr. Sin after our little break with some Japanese folktales. Trying to remember where we left off in this book. Oh yes. Last time we left off, Jerry Jerk, yes, that is the actual character's name, had witnessed the murder of the local doctor. He knows who did it, who is, spoiler alert for those who missed it, the local schoolmaster, a man who Jerry Jerk absolutely hates. And Jerry Jerk was told by the pastor, one Dr. Sin, to essentially keep his mouth shut for now. But Jerry Jerk, being a small child, of course, can't keep his mouth shut because he really, really hates that schoolmaster and wants to see him punished. So he, of course, inferred some things to the schoolmaster, and it seems he's probably going to be in trouble. Oh, and someone has attacked Dr. Sin, or at least tried to, apparently, but for reasons unknown. So then, my dear scholars, are you ready to journey back to Romney Marsh and see what is happening to Dr. Sin. By the way, that's Sin with an S-Y-N, not S-I-N. My goodness gracious. I will take that silence as a yes. So then, my dear scholars, sit back, relax, have a hot or cold beverage of your liking, dim the lights if you wish, and let us continue our reading of Dr. Sin by Russell Thorndike. Julian 20. Oh, yes, indeed. A little bit late there, Julian 20. Julian 20 ready for story time. Good, good. Usually, a lot of coughing tonight. Chapter 18. Behind the Shutters. One second, let me get the voices. Thank God somebody's brought a light, for I don't know what hasn't happened here. Ah, Captain, it's you, isn't it? The speaker was Dr. Sin. He was calmly kneeling over the form of Mr. Rash. He had in fact propped his head upon his knee and was dabbing the bleeding face with his clean handkerchief. Just get the brandy bottle out of that corner cupboard, will you, my man? He said to the boatswain. The girl there has frightened. Nothing serious, just sheer fright. The girl there has fainted, not frightened. Don't know why I said that. The boatswain did as he was ordered, and Imogene was quickly restored to consciousness. The captain, for the most part, stared at Sin and said nothing. Suddenly he passed his hand over his brow and wiped away the great beads of perspiration that had gathered there. Then, taking the brandy bottle from the boatswain's hand, he took a long pull, and with a sigh sat down in the armchair, still staring at Dr. Sin with unconcealed amazement. Feeling a bit squirmish, Captain? Said the latter, smiling. You're right. It's an ugly sight. More blood than necessary, though. Merely flesh cuts. Bruised a bit, too. Help yourself to brandy. Good evening, Jerry. Pleased to see you. Here's your poor schoolmaster got hurt. Feeling better, Captain? That's good. The sight of blood does turn one up. Was it Hannibal or Hamilcar who never could reconcile himself to the sight of it? I forget. Some great general it was, though. The girl here's the same. Better, Imogene? Surely it was Hannibal, wasn't it? I am sure I don't know or care, thundered the captain, standing up and turning desperately on the boatswain. Joe Mallet, what in hell's name is all this business? I'm dazed. But Dr. Sin went on speaking in his usual collected tones. It's all very horrible, I grant, but there's no mystery, I assure you. We were all three we were all three chatting here quite pleasantly, when in leaps that man of yours, attacks my friend the schoolmaster, and all but kills him. I picked up a bottle and landed the brute a crack over the head. The bottle broke, and the madman turned on me, clapped a bit of broken glass in my mouth, which I expect is cut about a bit, and got away. I asked the girl to hold the light, and when she saw the schoolmaster's face, why, over she went, candle and all, into a dead faint. Never saw such a thing in my life. But I tell you this, Captain, it's your bounden duty to get hold of that maniac, and string him up to the nearest tree, for there's not a man, woman, or child safe while he's at large. Then Dr. Sin helped them to move the still unconscious Rash into his own bedroom, leaving the boatswain and two seamen in charge. The rest of the sailors returning to the vicarage barn. and finally muffling himself in his great cloak. He proceeded to the inn to procure a room for the night. Supporting Imogen, he walked ahead, followed by the captain, and Jerry Jerk bearing a lantern. "Potboy," said the captain on the way.
Sir?
Said Jerry Jerk. "Are we dreaming or what?"
Blowed if I know. Wish I did.
On reaching the inn, they all agreed that it was none too safe to walk about broad that night again, for fear of the sinister man out upon the marsh. So they ordered the supper and rooms to be got ready, and for an hour or so the doctor chatted of indifferent things, just as if nothing had happened. But the captain kept silent that night. He had many things in his head that he couldn't understand. And the greatest of these was Dr. Syn, that pious old cleric, who was making himself so pleasant over a steaming bowl of punch. And as the parlor clock ticked on, and the room was filled with tobacco smoke, which the parson kept sending in thin rings across the fireplace, the captain rubbed his eyes hard, fidgeted, and shuffled in his chair, wondering when the dream would stop and he would find himself awake. Another drink of water. That was a short chapter. As I've said many times, the chapters in this book are fairly short, with very strange cadences in the way the grammar is done and the breaking up of the paragraphs. Music. Chapter 19. The Captain's Nightmare. Presently the captain yawned, and Dr. Syn rose and summoned Mrs. Waggetts. He yawned again and rubbed his eyes. Was he awake or dreaming? He yawned again and rubbed I doubled myself. The last thing he remembered was drinking hot rum punch and listening to a long story that he thought the doctor would never finish. The punch seemed to have had a soothing effect on him, for after that he felt rather vague. He dreamt he was lifted up sleeping, lifted up by two men who had followed Mrs. Waggetts from the bar when Dr. Syn had called her. Was one of those men that insolent Sexton Mipps? He vaguely thought it was, though he couldn't be sure. No, he couldn't be sure of anything. He thought he had been carried up to bed, but that was too silly. Who would carry him up to bed? Was it Dr. Syn who had said to Mipps on the stairs that he wasn't going riding tonight for 1,000 guineas, and they must be do without him for once? Then Mipps had answered, "That man ain't a-looking out for Clegg's carpenter, is he? Well, I'll go. I don't want us both tonight." Then the dream got more confused than ever. There was a lonely reef in the coral seas, and on it was a weird figure calling. The captain seemed to be on a ship that was staying away from the reef, and all the time the figure kept calling. There was a full ship's crew collected on the deck, who were threatening two men. One was a familiar figure, a figure he had not seen often out of his dreams, and as so was his little companion. And still the voice kept calling. The crew pushed forward a spokesman. They called him by a nickname, Pete. Pete sheepishly advanced and stammered out to the familiar figure, whom he addressed as captain, to put the ship about and take up again the lonely form calling from the reef. Pete's argument was evidently useless, for as he turned to join his fellows, the tallest of the familiar figures stretched out his hand and caught the man. He was clad in the scanty garb of a cook, and broke his naked back with a marline spike that the little companion of the familiar figure had handed to him. Then the crew was commanded to throw the body overboard, or they would be served the same. They did this, and the sharks surrounded the ship, snapping their teeth. Then the breeze seemed to blow off the reef, and the familiar figure ordered the men aloft to unfurl the sails. They obeyed sullenly, and still the voice, getting fainter and fainter, yet called from the reef. The breeze increased, and the captain and his mate ordered the men the quicker aloft. "Get up aloft there, you dogs! Get up! Get up! Get up!" The familiar figure then caught sight of the dreamer, though he wasn't sure if he was still dreaming, and striding up to him, ordered him aloft, and when he refused, he dragged him up by the arm. The dreamer felt dizzy, for the sails were blowing in his face, and he thought he must let go, and he begged the familiar figure to let him go down, but the voice went on crying, "Up! Get up! Get up!" And then the sail was pulled from his face, and the wind blew it through his hair, and he started up, catching hold of a stay, which turned out to be the bedpost, and letting the sail fall below the deck. In reality, it was the bedclothes slipping to the floor. Still, the voice cried, "Get up! Get up!" He then recognized the familiar face and form of Dr. Sin, and beside him his companion, Sexton Mipps. "Get up! Get up!" the parson was crying. "What a fellow to sleep you are! Like waking the dead, upon my soul. It is, Mr. Mipps." The captain rubbed his eyes again. The sun was streaming through the window, which was open, and a good stiff breeze was blowing in from the sea. "What the devil?" said the captain. "Oh, it's Dr. Sin, is it? What's the time?" "Oh, just on 10 o'clock," said the cleric. "10 o' what?" bellowed the captain, leaping out of bed. "Clock," repeated Mr. Mipps. "I've overslept. Thing I've never done in my life. Been dreaming too. Nightmares. Horrible. What do you want? Is anything the matter?" "I think there is," said the doctor quietly. "And so do I," said Mr. Mipps. "What? What's wrong? What's happened?" "I don't quite know yet, but I don't like the look of it." "The look of what?" shouted the captain. "The vicarage," replied the vicar. "Put on your clothes quickly, captain, and come and see. I think there's something wrong." Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? I wonder who the familiar figure in the nightmare was. It seems a little bit ominous, my dear scholars, doesn't it? After all, it's not often you have a nightmare like that. I wonder if the nightmare is telling us, my dear scholars, something like a secret. They do say that dreams can sometimes foretell the future. Mm, but what can we say for certain? Chapter 20: A Terrible Investigation. Well, captain's given the talent of the captain, every investigation here has been terrible. The captain was not long in tumbling into his clothes. Meanwhile, the sexton sat upon the bed, which neither of the other two seemed to think extraordinary. The captain now and then addressed a sharp question to the doctor, but the doctor did not answer, nor indeed did the captain seem to expect an answer. The doctor was standing by the window, his gray hair blowing in the stiff sea breeze that filled the room. Suddenly they heard a little shaking noise upon the bed, and turning, perceived the little sexton with the tears rolling down his cheeks, given up to the most ungovernable laughter. And yet it was not laughter, for the sexton made no noise. He just let his body quiver and heave, and the tears roll on over his thin cheeks. It was a strange kind of laughter. I mean, people laugh silently all the time. I'm not sure why it's strange for the captain to see this. "What the thunder's amusing you?" roared the captain, and he hurled the bolster at the sexton's head. Mipps was himself again upon the instant. "Bless if I know," he gasped. "But thank you kindly for that bolster whack, for if something hadn't happened, I believe I should have bust." "But what is it? There must have been something to make you laugh like that." "See how we are going to get in. The place is all locked up, and though we have battered and hammered on the doors and windows for a good hour, we can get no answer from the sailors inside." "And my men in the barn, where are they?" said the captain, looking across at the building in question. "I'm afraid, captain, that you are too liberal to your men, for their rum barrel is empty, and the whole crew are still asleep." The captain swore and walked to the back door. He raised his foot and with one kick sent the door in, splintered and cracked from the bolt sockets. "Neatly done," remarked Dr. Syn, "though who's to pay for a new door?" But the captain did not heed him, or care a brass farthing for the door. He was bent on investigating the house. Mipps, the doctor, and Jerry Jerk, who had appeared from somewhere, followed him. So Jerry Jerk just appears out of nowhere, and the author can just like, oh, he just happened to show up. He was somewhere, he just showed up randomly. That sentence gives a very and Zoidberg feel to it. I don't blame him. I'm not a big fan of Jerry Jerk, honestly. Excuse me. The kitchen was empty, so the captain opened the door of the sitting room, which was very dark because of the closed shutters. He strode across to the broken window, threw it wide open, and unbolted the shutters, which, swinging back, let in the light of day. In the corner of the room opposite the window lay the two sailors who had been left to watch with the boatswain. Both were bound and gagged, and one of them was moving. The captain loosened his bonds with a clasp knife, and the fellow seemed to recover his senses. "What does this mean, my man?" said the captain. The sailor turned and pointed to the body of his friend. It lay half propped up against the wall, and above it was a large splintered tear in the white plaster. And then the captain saw and understood, for the neck of the propped up body had been cruelly pierced. "Damn that sexton's body and soul!" ejaculated the captain. Oh my goodness, they do they do use that word a lot in this book. "His giggling gives one the creeps. What's tickling him now?" "Unstrung," muttered the vicar, as he followed the captain up the dark stairs to the bedroom. There in the bed, last night occupied by Mr. Rash, lay the fat boatswain on his back, with his face gagged up and covered with a nightcap. He was making dreadful moans. The captain pulled the bedclothes off and discovered that the faithful fellow was tied to the bed. Grateful he looked, though troubled, when the captain cut his bonds and pulled him up, and he owned in a shamefaced manner that he never had endured such a horrible night in his life, and that Parson Syn, save his presence, must be the foul fiend himself to be able to sleep in such a devil-haunted house. Dr. Syn went downstairs, fetched the brandy bottle, and administered a good dose to the boatswain, and also to the other seamen who had followed them upstairs. "And where's the schoolmaster got to?" said the captain. I'm trying to figure out which. This is a thing that some books, especially at this period of time, would often do, is they don't always say who is speaking. What they'll do is they'll maybe mention in the paragraph before the conversation about the captain, about the one character speaking to another. So they'll mention who is doing the initial speaking, but they won't mention who's doing the additional speaking, which can get very confusing. "And where's the schoolmaster got to?" said the captain. "He's gone." "Gone?" they all repeated together. "Aye, sir, gone. And if ever a man has gone body and soul, I declares he has. For I solemnly and soberly declares that I'd seen him hoisted up and removed downstairs by a couple of horrible light faces." "Light faces?" roared the captain. "Yes, sir. Coves with faces all ashine. Why, I wouldn't settle down and live within 100 miles of Romney Marsh for 1,000 guineas a year pension. I wouldn't. For talk about devils, the place stinks of them." "Now look here, my man," said the captain, "just pull yourself in a brace or two and tell me what happened." "Why, so I will," said the boatswain, "for queer, most queer it be." Just checking this next chapter. Okay. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh. So again, this book is so gruesome. I mean, we have a death by essentially someone being stabbed in the throat. Um, Not a pretty way to go. Um, it's a oh my goodness gracious. My dear scholars, I got a question for you. Well, no, there. I mean, I can read it. You know what? I can read it. I was gonna say, do you want me to read this next part all in the character voices because there are big chunks of paragraphs where they're all talking. But no, I think I can read it. Shouldn't be too hard. Where do we start tonight anyway? I'm just double checking something here. Wow, we're gonna be reading quite a few chapters tonight. Okay, chapter 21, the bosun's story. "Nothing happened, sir, for some hour or so after you left, and then things made up for lost time, as it were, and came fast and quick. I was sitting outside this here room with the door on the jar. Outside I was, because I couldn't bear the sight of that schoolmaster's face. I think you'll own yourself, sir, that I wasn't just exactly what you might call a pleasant evening face, especially a battered about as it was. Poor Bill Spiker and Morgan Walters here was asleep downstairs, for we'd agreed that I should stand first watch. Well, the boys had brought us over our allowance of rum from the barn, and we'd all had a drop, though I kept most of mine to the end of my watch, thinking to use it for a nightcap, as 'twere. But the little drop I did get was making me feel very drowsy, and I began to think the next hour would never come, when I could wake up Bill Spiker. Presently, I hears a noise of galloping horses. I goes to the window on the stairs there, and looks out. Right along the road I could see those same riders with lit up faces what I'd seen the night before last. I know it was them, 'cause I could see their faces. You understand, when quite sudden I was seized from behind and pulled over backwards down the stairs. I fought the best I could, but there was a sort of overpowering kerchief pulled over my mouth, and I was lifted up on four men's shoulders. I couldn't see anything of their faces, but as I went up the stairway on their shoulders, I just remembered a seeing that schoolmaster a coming down in the same fashion as I was a going up, only that he only required two to hold him. That's an interesting note, isn't it? Now, whether this was because I was heavier, I don't know, or whether 'cause he was only a coming down while I was a going up, or whether the things what had got hold of me was real or sham as it were. But certain am I, the two things what had the schoolmaster, and things I must call 'em, though they was a bit like men, had got the same shiny faces all alight, just like them demon riders had, that I don't remember nothing else till I was woke up by hearing a sort of horrible shriek downstairs, which I thought was just a dream, but now suppose was poor Bill a voicing his last opinion in this world. After that I went to sleep again, till I was wakened up again by a sort of groaning, which I finds was myself, and then in comes you after a long time, and lets me go, as it were, and that's all I knows. So help me God, sir, quite enough for one night, as I thinks you'll all agree. I gotta drink a lot of water for this next bit. But that's an interesting note, dear scholars, isn't it? That while these phantoms, or whoever they are, carried up the bosun four at a time, with four of them keeping a good hold of him, the schoolmaster, if you notice, was brought down only by two men. Now, as you heard, the bosun thinks it's because he's heavier, but I think there might be another reason why the schoolmaster was given essentially such a light bit of security by these ghouls. That's what we might call them. Excuse me. I gotta do another voice. Morgan Walters then gave his version of what happened in the night, which bore out certain points of the boatswain's story. He had soon fallen into a deep sleep, but was awakened with the feeling that something was wrong. He tried to move, but couldn't. Indeed, he could scarcely breathe. The only things he could see were two dark forms moving about the room, with their faces lit up by a curious light. These two things passed out of the room, and then for what seemed an interminable time, Morgan Walters worked away at his bonds and presently became aware that his companion was doing likewise. They couldn't talk for the bandages over their mouths. Presently, Morgan Walters thought that he could hear the sound of horses. It sounded like a regiment of pack ponies trotting on the high road. "Clip-clop they went," he said. "A slow clip-clop, and a lot of them too." Then he heard a sigh of satisfaction from his companion, and saw him stand up, for he had partially unbound himself. Whether to let in the refreshing sea air, or whether he had also heard the horses and wanted to locate them, Morgan Walters couldn't say. But Bill Spiker had got to the broken window and unbolted the shutters. "Oh, hello there, Zen. Welcome!" We are currently reading Dr. Sin. We are on chapter 21. And this sailor, Morgan Walters, is retelling how his companion happened to get his throat pierced by a weapon. Very gruesome. Excuse me. But Bill Spiker had got to the broken window and unbolted the shutters. He felt the cold air come into the room with a great gasp, and then he seemed to have dozed off again. But the next thing he heard was a great scream of agony, and turning over, he beheld Bill Spiker embracing the wall. The wall held him up, for there was a weapon transfixed to it through his neck. The very horror gave Morgan Walters a wild strength, and he somehow stood upon his feet. Then came a curious thing. He saw between himself and the form of his fellow a man. And I'm going to have to use this term. I hate it, my dear scholars, but it is in the book, and it's just the best description that it could give. A yellow-faced man. I'm sorry, I really don't like using that. The escaped seaman. With one hand, the creature plucked the weapon from the wall and drew it back through the bleeding neck that held it. This was strangely vivid to Morgan Walters, and he could recall his thought of wonder that the blood in no way stained the yellow hand that drew the steel from the flesh. It was a, it was Zen, advanced jaundice, you say? Yes, advanced jaundice. Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way. It makes things a little bit better. The body of Bill Spiker fell from the wall and collapsed in a heap. A hand seemed to strike Morgan Walters at the same time, for he lost consciousness again and remembered no more. "Did the man touch you?" said the captain, speaking suddenly and rather loud, so that all in the room gave a perceptible start. "Think well, my man."
I'm quite certain of that, sir. I know he did not.
"And yet you were knocked down."
So it seems, sir. But it may have been just losing my senses again. I've never fainted before, so perhaps it was that. Or the effects of the suffocating kerchief.
"And you remember nothing else?"
I gotta get a drink of water. There's so many voices. One thing, though whether I dreamt that or not, I couldn't swear to. It seemed that, when I come to something like myself, the dawn was breaking, for the room was filled with a grey light. Suddenly, something came into the room and closed those shutters. I fell off into another sort of sleep, and dreamt that people were trying to wake me up by banging on the shutters. And then at last, hours after, you came, sir, and freed me.
"One moment," said the captain. This something that closed the shutters. A man?"
Yes, like a man."
"Like what man?"
Well, sir, it was like one of them devils that I'd seen leaving the room. It also reminded me, yes, it reminded me of that gentleman there, standing out that door, that sexton. In fact, now that I comes to think of it and look at him, I remember dreaming a lot about him in the night."
"Thank ye kindly," said Mr. Mipps, who was listening to the narrative from the door, "but don't trouble to drag me into it, mate. I gives you my word that we were all as merry as crickets till you king's men come nigh the place, and as for talks of demons and such like, well, there's always gossip of such, o' course. And since you fellows come aboard, the talk's been of nothing else. And murders, too. Why, we never heard of murders, except, of course, in church. We was a happy, a contented, a pleasant going little village, as you could have wished, we was. But now, so help me God, you fellows have turned our little spot into a regular witch's kitchen, that you have. 2 days you've been here, and 2 murders we've had, one a day. And if you stay here for a year, as you can calculate for yourself, we'll have 365 at the present rate. Of course, it's good for my trade, so I says nothing. Go on murdering to your heart's content, for I can knock up one a day all night, all right? But I ain't a-going to take any blame about it. And what's more, I object to being dreamt about. So another night kindly leave me out of your adventures, 'cause I don't like being mixed up with such traffic."
Saying which, Mipps stepped across the corpse of Bill Spiker and produced his foot rule, measured him up, and entered the results in a dirty notebook. The captain then proceeded to the barn and soundly rated his still drowsy men, and putting the boatswain in charge of the corpse, he asked Dr. Syn to join him for breakfast at the ship. And as there was no schoolmaster, and consequently no school, Jerry Jerk had the extreme pleasure of waiting upon them. So let's review that. That is interesting, isn't it? The bosun claims that he saw a being who looks very much like Mr. Mipps. I also,
have to credit Mr. Mipps. He's not wrong. I mean, as far as we know, there has been no killings in the village up until the sailors showed up. So they have kind of started this whole mess themselves. If they had stayed out of it, things probably would have been a lot quieter. Though, of course, the question is, are these murders murdering? Yeah, why are these murders happening? Oh, this next one's a long one. Okay, next chapter is a little bit longer. Chapter 22: A Curious Breakfast Party. During the meal, Jerry took good stock of both men. The captain's manner was sullen and grumpy. When hasn't it been? I mean, the captain's been nothing but kind of a pain in the butt the entire time. He was turning things over in his mind that he was incapable of solving, things altogether out of his ken. Dr. Sin, on the other hand, seemed eager to discuss all these curious events. For underlying his quiet conversation there seemed to smolder a nameless fear, which now and then burst into flames of fury. Fury against the captain's apparent inactivity in taking measures to find and capture the man. But he never went too far, never said anything that his tact could not smooth over. In fact, he was at great pains not to quarrel with the captain as the squire had done. So Jerry watched them as they breakfasted in the sanded parlor of the ship, keeping as much in the room as he could, and dreading to be dismissed. Presently the captain turned to him and inquired whither he had breakfasted. Jerry replied that he certainly had had a snack or two, but that broiled fish always did go down very pleasant with bread and butter and fresh milk, and accepted with alacrity. Ugh! Alacrity. The invitation from the captain to bring a chair and help himself. The captain got up, filled a pipe, and lit it. The doctor did the same. Both men pushed their plates to the center of the table, leaning their elbows on the cleared space, and Jerry in the center, for all the world like a judge of some quaint game of skill, watched the opponents. They drew deliberately at their pipes, sending preliminary battle clouds across the table before the real tussle began, each desirous of asserting how much the other knew or guessed about these strange events. Zen, you mean yes, that word, which I cannot currently pronounce for some odd reason. Strange events. But each very fearful of betraying what he guessed. So Jerry watched them, feeling certain that a battle was imminent, wondering upon which side he would be called to fight, and what the end of it all would be. But with all his watching and wondering, he didn't forget to eat, and eat heartily too, for Jerry's maxim was, eat what you can, and only think when you've got to. Usually again. The captain spoke first. Dr. Sin, you heard me say at that inquiry yesterday that I was no strategist, that I was only a fighter. I did, returned the parson. Alacrity. 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 Okay. Okay. Thank you, Zen. Sometimes I really struggle with some of these words for some reason. I know everything else outside and around about a ship, but I don't know much else, and certainly nothing else thoroughly, so to speak.
But I've seen other things in my time for all that, just as anyone who travels is bound to see things, and have remembered a few things outside my business. Now, you're different from that, for you're a scholar and have traveled far, and a man who can use his book knowledge on what he comes in contact with in the world is the sort of man who might perhaps explain what's bothering me at this present moment. For I am dense, and you are not. In other words, he admits that he's a complete moron. Something I. What is bothering you, Captain? Of course, something to do with these murders that are uppermost in our minds? Something, I dare say, replied the captain, slowly weighing his every word. But, on the other hand, maybe it's nothing. I can't connect the two things myself, and yet I've a feeling that I ought to be able to. I've tried, though. Tried hard. Been trying all through breakfast. And it worries me because as a fighting man, thinking always does worry me sorely. You may laugh at what I am going to tell you, and if you do, I shan't take offense, because it's precisely what I should have done, had anyone told me about what I'm going to tell you. Something. The captain hesitated, speaking as if he longed to keep silent, speaking as if afraid of being disbelieved. Something. Well, I'll tell you first that it sounds ridiculous on the face of it, but something which, well, I saw myself. I have to keep drinking water. Excuse me. Tell me, said the parson, leaning further forward over the table. The captain sat up rigid in his chair, took his pipe from between his lips, and spoke as if repeating a lesson that he didn't understand. Once in a Cuban town, in a little Cuban town, can't remember the precise longitude and latitude. I gotta grab my other water. But that's no matter, and I can't even remember the name of the town or what I was doing there exactly. But that has no odds on the story. Go on, said the vicar. Well, in this little Cuban town, I saw a priest die. He was as dead as this table, you understand. The doctor said so. And I knew it. Well, imagine my feelings when half an hour after death this man arose, entered the next hut, and deliberately, brutally, and carefully stabbed a sleeping child to death. Excuse me, book? What? Um, my dear scholars, I've been expecting some brutality in this book, but I never actually expected this. So, maybe next time I read this book, I should put up a warning for just how. Oh my goodness, this book is the early 1900s equivalent of an R-rated film. Oh, I'll go back to the book though, but wow, that was not something expected. The doctor said nothing but looked at the captain. Jerry stopped eating and looked at Dr. Sin. He was pale, very pale. Then the captain leant over the table and continued speaking, but not like a lesson, for there was a thrill in his voice. I found out afterwards that the dead fellow had borne a lifelong grudge against his neighbor. The revenge that he had somehow failed to get during his lifetime, he accomplished after his death. It was devilish curious. It was a devilish trick, said the doctor. The fellow was feigning death for a purpose, namely to put his neighbor off his guard. He was not really dead. It would be against all laws of nature. Why, of course it would. For a man to arise, walk, and commit a foul murder, and all this half an hour after his decease. Nonsense. Fanciful nonsense. Against the laws of nature, I'll allow, went on the captain, as if he had fully expected that his story would be disbelieved. But if you'll excuse me saying so, who are you, Dr. Sin, and for the matter of that, who am I to say what the laws of nature are, or how far they extend? For my own part, I should prefer to question mine own ignorance rather than the laws of nature. But what connection is there between this story and our present trouble in the village, owing to this murdering mad seaman? Why, just this, went on the captain deliberately. When you first caught sight of this same murdering mad seaman, you remember outside the barn, I noticed you took cold all of a sudden. You got the shivers. Marsh agu, agu, marsh agu, put in the parson quickly. Get it often in this place. Poor old Pepper used to tell me that it was the result of a fever I once had badly in Charleston, Carolina. Nearly lost my life with it. I dare say he was right. I'm a frequent sufferer. As soon as the mists rise from the marsh, I get the shivers. Ah! Then there falls one of my points to the ground. Still, I have another ready. Suppose we grant that your attack for Egu had nothing to do with your sudden meeting with this man. Of course it didn't, muttered the doctor. Absurd. Very well then. Did you notice that the entire weight of the rum barrel was carried by Bill Spiker, the gunner? No, said the doctor. I didn't notice that. No more did Bill Spiker, cried the captain. You can lay to that, or he would have soon raised objections, but I did, because it's my business to note which of my men work hardest. I don't see what that has to do with the case, said the doctor. It's a common enough complaint to find a man shirking work. Another water, my dear scholars. Not when the man who shirks is a willing worker. That's what made me wonder in the first place, and I've now come to the conclusion that whatever the man was yeah, excuse me, whenever the missing sailor was ordered to work alone, mind you, without the help of the other seamen, why, he could accomplish anything. But when he was working with anybody, he seemed, in spite of himself, to become singularly useless. You call yourself dense, Captain, and you affirm that I am not, but you seem to have a keener perception of the abstruse and vague than I have. I cannot follow you. You will be able to follow me in a moment, said the captain humbly. I fear it is the poor way in which I am getting to the point, but I have to tell things in my own way, not being given to talk much. Go on, then, in your own way, said the parson. I then recollect that in my short acquaintance with the missing sailor, I never remembered to have seen him in actual contact with anyone or anything. And I also recollect a strong tendency amongst the men to avoid him and keep out of his personal touch with him. Natural enough, explained the parson. Perfectly natural. And I skipped one line here because it is, my dear scholars, it is very offensive, and I'm not going to say it. Perfectly, agreed the captain, and I think we may add the Englishman's apathy towards the uncanny and mysterious. I dare say, said Dr. Sin. I'm sure of it, went on the captain. Indeed, I went so far as to ask the boatswain, who has had most dealings with the fellow, whether he had ever touched him. Touched him? What do you mean? Asked the parson, who began dimly to see what the other was driving at. Touched! touched him, repeated the captain with emphasis. The bosun told me no, and that he wouldn't care about it, for he considered that a weird-looking cove. He used his precise way of I'll use his precise way of expressing it, that a weird-looking cove with a face like a dead un, which never took food nor drink to his knowledge, weren't the sort of cove that a respectable seaman wanted to touch. Jerry looked at the doctor. He was as white as the snowy tablecloth before him. Yet he feigned not to follow the captain's meaning. "And now," cried the captain, "mad as it sounds, do you see any connection between the two cases?" It's plain to any traveler that some of these foreign rascals, especially the priests, possess strange gifts that other men's brains run short of, and I want to know if you see any connection between the two cases.
Oh, I see what he's doing. He thinks that because this missing sailor is, let's put it, a certain nationality, that somehow he has strange powers that others don't, which is, oh, what a stereotype that is. Oh my goodness gracious! Again, I'm sorry, my dear scholars, if this offends anyone. It's in the book. It's a strange. It is quite a bit of a outdated viewpoint. Let's put it that way. Doctor Sin was hand. Doctor Sin's hand was trembling, so much so that the long clay pipe stem snapped between his finger and thumb. Neither seemed to notice this, though the lighted ashes had fallen out of the bowl upon the tablecloth, and were burning little holes in it.
"Do you see any connection, Dr. Sin?" said the captain, leaning right over the table, and bringing his face close to the cleric. Dr. Sin did not answer. The captain repeated the sentence with more force, with all the stubborn and combative force that he could muster into his voice. "Any connection between the Cuban priest, who was able to commit deliberate murder after death by centering the enormous will power of his revenge upon that one object? Do you see any connection, I say, between that man and a man who was marooned upon a coral reef in the southern Pacific being able to follow his murderer across the world in the beastly hulk of his dead self? I don't understand it, nor do you, perhaps, but I fancy that I see the semblance of a connection, and what I want to know is, do you?"
I just realized, turned it off. Then Doctor Sin did a surprising thing. He slowly raised his face to the level of the captain, slowly raised his eyes to meet the captain's gaze, and then drawing his lips apart, laying his white teeth bare, he drew over his face from the very depth of his soul, it seemed, a smile, a fixed smile, that steadily beamed all over him for at least a quarter of a minute. Then he said, "You're a most remarkable man, a king's captain, eh? I vow you have mistaken your calling." And he deliberately, and with the flat of his white hand, patted the captain's rough cheek, patted as though the captain were a child being petted, or a puppy being teased.
"What the thunder do you mean," roared the infuriated officer, "by calling? Mistaken my calling?"
"Your profession," said Dr. Sin, calmly putting on his cloak and hat.
What would you have me then?" cried the seaman.
I wouldn't have you any other. Yeah, I wouldn't have you any other than what you are, sir," replied Dr. Sin with his hand on the door latch. "A thoroughly entertaining and vastly amusing old sea dog, mahogany as a dinner wagon, and loaded with so many fancies as to be near the breaking point." The captain was so taken aback at the manner of the doctor that he could only look and gasp. Dr. Sin, perfectly at ease, opened the door.
I wonder, he said in a low voice, almost tenderly. Jerry thought. The captain, with a great effort, managed to ejaculate. What? No, Pluck! No, don't say that! Do not say that, Pluck! Don't say that! Oh, Book, what are you making me say? You lead 20 Matsu, that's what the book says! Said, oh no! Now there's semen all over the cat. Said, don't make this worse, said! Don't make this worse! Don't make this worse! Oh no! Oh, this is a good place. Scholars, this place is a nice place. Said, flies overhead. Oh look, a swallow. Stop it! Stop it! What are you doing to me? Oh no! Oh my goodness gracious, dear scholars. I'm gonna step away for a second. I can't. I can't. Okay, my dear scholars, now that we have calmed ourselves down and moved on from the from a certain phrasing, let's continue. I'm not going to repeat that last part. What? Why, your mother sent you to see. For as a yeah, for as an apothecary. An apothecary. Ah, yes, indeed. What a magnificent apothecary the world has missed in you, sir. And the vicar went out, closing the door behind him. The captain could do nothing but stare at the closed door, while Jerry, perceiving nothing entertaining in that, stared at the captain, who suddenly exploded out in his great sea voice. An apothecary! An apothecary! What in the devil's name does he mean by that? Jerry still looked at the captain. Certainly he had never beheld anyone more unlike an apothecary. By the wildest stretch of his imagination, he could not picture the captain mixing drugs. It's my opinion, he said at last, and hesitated. Yes, thundered the captain with an eagerness that seemed to welcome any opinion. Well, it's my opinion, sir, that Dr. Sin is off his head. Matsu! Zen, an apothecary is like a chemist or a pharmacist. That's what he means by it. Oh, yeah, basically, yeah. Very literal. And it's my opinion, pot boy, said the captain as if he valued his own opinion as highly as Jerry Jerk's. It's my opinion that he's nothing of the kind. He's feigning madness. He had to do something, you see, to get out of the room, so he called me something that he knew would take my breath away for the moment, knowing me to be dense. And he succeeded. For if any man was unqualified to be an apothecary, I'm the fellow. An apothecary.
Again, it's funny that the captain does agree that he is a moron and not very smart. Oh boy. Then the captain sat down in the armchair and laughed till the tears rolled down his cheeks, and Jerry was obliged to join in, though he didn't know what he was laughing at. At length he stopped and became suddenly grave. Getting up, he placed his hands on Jerry's shoulders.
Look here, potboy, he said. You and I have common secrets that I know. What the devil were you doing out on the marsh the night before last? I don't know, but you saw the schoolmaster kill Pepper. I do know.
You know? Cried Jerk, utterly astonished. Then Dr. Sin must have told you, for I never breathed a word.
I know all about it, my boy, because I was hiding in the same dike as you. Now see here, for what I've seen of you, I imagine you can be relied upon. We'll pluck a leaf out of that parson's book. We'll find out his mystery. We'll find out the whole mystery of this damn marsh. And as to being apothecaries, well, damn, so we will. We'll take him at his word.
And be apothecaries, sir?
Asked Jerry, more puzzled now than ever.
Yes!
Cried the captain, slapping his great hands up and down upon Jerry's shoulders.
Apothecaries make experiments, don't they?
I dare say they do, sir,
replied Jerk.
Well, so will we, lad,
went on the captain, as happy as a sandboy.
We'll set a trap for all that mystery to walk into. We'll set a big trap, my lad, big enough to hold all the murderers and sailors on the marsh, the demon riders as well, and certainly not forgetting the coffins in Mip's shop or the bottles of Alsace beneath this floor. We'll catch the lot, my boy, and examine 'em inside and outside, by night and by day. And when we've examined thoroughly, I will give 'em to Jack Ketch, to old Jack Ketch, who'll hang 'em up to dry. Not a word, my boy, to anyone, not a word. Here's a guinea bit to hold your tongue, and look to hear from me before the day's out, for I shall want your help tomorrow night.
The captain was gone. He had literally rushed out of the door, leaving Jerk alone in a whirl.
Well, he said to himself, if a man ever deserved a third breakfast, I'm the one. And here goes, for both of these fellows are stark staring mad. Though it's wonderful the way they all seem to take to me.
And thrusting the precious guinea bit into his pocket, Jerk again vigorously attacked the victuals. I'm thinking we're going to stop here, my dear scholars, because the next chapter is a longer one. And I think I want to rest my voice for the rest of the night. I can feel it giving way a little bit. But hey, we did go through a lot of the book. And things are getting interesting, though. Thorndyke, I wish Thorndyke could have used a different phrase for that sentence. I mean, he had no way of knowing, of course, but yeah, it certainly changed the manner of this story, didn't it? Julian 20, thank you for the entertainment. You are very welcome, Julian 20. We'll stop there. What do you think of the book so far, my dear scholars? How are you enjoying it? It's certainly, it's quite a mystery. Although, Julian 20, good. I don't know why, but I really kind of don't want the captain to find out the truth, because I don't really like the captain. I really don't. I think he's really very boorish and he really is kind of a jerk. He's kind of a moronic jerk, and I really don't like him. And I know he's supposed to be kind of the hero, but he does come across as, you know, just not a nice guy. Um, I don't like Jerry Jerk either. That kid is really irritating. But I, unlike other books so far, like say Kidnapped, where I found mostly characters the main character absolutely irritating. This one does just I'm still enjoying it. I mean, I don't dislike the story. So my dear scholars, next week's schedule. If everything goes according to plan, remember that it has to go according to plan for me to do streaming. Next week's schedule. Monday, I will be doing more of The Last Campfire and hopefully doing a better job of it than this Monday's was. Oh dear. I'm going to be haunted by those box puzzles for a while. And then Thursday, we will be reading more of Dr. Sin and continuing the book. So, let us see who we will be rating next tonight, if there is anyone. I gotta bring it up. June 29, I hang off already. Oh my goodness. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. I don't know if we have anyone who's doing. Let me double check this. Do we want to rate a reader or a gamer? There's not a lot of readers tonight, it looks like. But we can raid one if we want to. Usually twice says anything. Okay. Um, we could raid Jewelry Jelly. She is playing Bravely Default. We raided her last time, I think. Oh dear. Um, yeah, let's raid Jewelry Jelly. He's a good friend. So then, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.